That's right, I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Hello, Nick family. Welcome to the Just Nick and It morning recap and reaction show. The Knicks let one get away last night in Madison Square Garden, up 14 with 2 minutes and 30 something seconds left, and let go of the rope. It was a game where even had they won, there were some things they needed to clean up. But as I was telling Jeff, you want to get the win and clean it up. But this one came back to bite them. And it can go two ways. It could go two ways. This could be a wake up call, right? It's one thing to talk about, we have to play 48 minutes of basketball. We've been winning, playing less than 48 minutes, and we know that that's not going to always be the case. We have to be better. Like, it's one thing to know that intellectually. It's another thing to experience what it's like not to play 48 minutes of basketball, to lose a 14 point lead, to fortunately get an opportunity, to go into overtime and close the game out. And then they weren't able to do that. So this can go two ways. Like, this could be a backbreaker for the Knicks, and we can lose this series, and they can look back on game one and say, wow, things could have been different had we won that game. Or, like I said, this could be a wake-up call where they fully understand what 48 minutes of basketball means, and they go and close this series out. I fully expect the Knicks to respond. I expect the Knicks to get, in my opinion, the next two, if not the next three. That's how confident I am in them, particularly after losses. And this is a heartbreaking one. But Jeff, who I don't know if you're feeling as confident as I am, how you feeling this morning? What's your
Well,
overall take on the game? And then we'll get into the specifics.
for those of you who are too young to remember the 8 points in 8 seconds, congratulations. You got us old heads have lived through it a second time. Like, what is it about this Pacers team, that the Nembhard Miracle 3? It just seems like every season we play them in the postseason, they come up with, it was 30 years to the day for the Patrick Ewing finger roll of doom. And it just happened again. And it's like, they're so dangerous. And it's funny because when we were making our run in the fourth quarter, and I know we'll talk about this later, they went through that stretch where they were like 2 of 12 from the field, and we were like 6 of 9. And I was like, that's going to even out down the stretch. I had a feeling it was. I was like, this is not safe because they're such excellent shot makers. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, and this is why I have PTSD, by the way. I mean, if
Thibodeau keeps the players in the game regardless of the lead, right?
Yeah, and so we'll get into all of that. But just heartbroken, agonizing, ripped the heart out of your chest. Can't sleep at night. Just tough one. But I mean, it's one game. As my wife tried to calm me down, take me back from the ledge, she said, it's just one game. And it's right, it's just one game. But when the series is on a razor's edge, close like this one seems to be, one game can be the difference. And I just have usually when you blow a game like this, it comes back to haunt you. And for a franchise that's been haunted for my entire life, it really, this one stings extra. I mean, that's the worst experience as a Knicks fan in a single game that I've ever had.
Yeah. But your wife is right? It's not a 1-game series, thank goodness. It is a 7-game series, so the Knicks will have ample, opportunities to win. The Knicks are good enough to win on the road. But you're right. You're right. This could be a game that you, like I said, initially, where you look back on and say things could have been different had we got that one. But I think it also highlights the point that winning a championship is hard. particularly against teams who are even or close to being even. I know a lot of us felt that the Knicks were head and shoulders better than Indiana. I definitely think the Knicks are a more talented team than Indiana, but talented teams lose series all the time, you know? So it's hard to win a championship. We're confident. We feel we're the better team. But as you said before we went on, Indiana is very confident as well. And they think they're the better team. Like they think that they should win the series. And maybe they have a chip on their shoulder as well because even the national media is picking the Knicks. That's like a
That never
book,
happened, right?
right? When that happens. But championships are hard. I was watching, and then we'll get into the game, a podcast with Richard Jefferson, Kendrick Perkins, um, the one who we drafted, I forget his name, and then he went on to play for the Phoenix Suns, jump shooter, about 6'10". I forget his name. Um, they were doing a podcast, and
Channing
Kendrick
Frye.
Perkins, Shannon Fry, there it is, and another woman. Sh Kendrick Perkins said, "Winning a championship is stressful." He said, "It's very stressful." He said, "You can't sleep. You hate everybody. You hate the coaches. When you come in, the tension is at an all-time, high." And it's true. It's not something you just, waltz into because you're the better team. There's ups and downs and disappointments and elation. Like it's a process. And as disappointing as this is a part of it, and it's good that we're here. Like it's good that, we're finally in this process of winning a chip with all of the exhilaration and all of the disappointments that come with it, from game to game. So I think we're gonna be okay. I think we will respond. But I agree with you, Jeff. This game can come back to bite us. But let's get into the specific. Shout out to the chat who got up early in the morning to be with us. Kevin Bergen, Wonder Woman, I appreciate you. Nostalgic Nick, Jarrell in the building, appreciate you. G Man 78, New York S3, New York 3 or New York S3. Is that Starks 3? Hmm. Yeah, appreciate you and all of those that are listening on Twitter and the replay gang. I appreciate you joining us. But yeah, Jeff, let's just get into going back and forth with who and what stood out, and we'll just piggyback off of each other. Who or what do you want to start with?
OG Anunoby, very disappointing game, especially on offense from OG. I mean, I don't know, and even defensively, I felt like down the stretch he kind of disappeared and was invisible. And I think he went 2 for 8 from 3, and he had the fumble on the pass with the which I don't think Jalen should have passed the ball to him there anyway. He actually looked surprised that Brunson was giving him the ball, and I was surprised too, given the situation. But we could talk about that more in a minute. But we really need Anunoby to be much crisper and at a higher level. There was a point in the game where I was like, wow, we're getting really good OG, and then down the stretch, he just vanished.
Yeah. I do want to give him credit for, his play, stepping up when Brunson went down with was it 4 or 5 fouls, and Thibodeau took him out, and we were up only 2. And then when he came back, we were up 17. And I think OG's energy had a lot to do with that. He got it going with the 3-pointer. And that was a very difficult. When he started dancing and putting it through his leg, I said, "Oh my, this is about to be an adventure right here." But he, you know, created a shot. The step back 3 was money. Then he came back with the layup. I think it was off a shot in the post. And I said, wow, so I don't want to take that away from him. I do agree with you overall, but that was really good for us. And I think that set the tone that, yeah, even though Brunson is on the bench, we could still, we have to step it up. And he did. And statistically, you know, 3 steals and 3 blocks. So defensive statistically, he was awesome. He was still negative 12. Like all of the Knicks, most of the Knicks were. I think Towns was the only positive plus minus in the starting lineup, and I think Payne and McBride off the bench were a plus. You know, Robinson was just zero. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. He did a good job on Siakam too. I mean, Siakam did not kill us in that game. But to your point, there were particular instances of not being as sharp defensively from OG Anunoby, but from the Knicks from the Knicks overall, and we'll get into um that as well. Let me read this super chat. Shout out to AP. Appreciate the super duper chat. And then also, I appreciate you being up this early and joining us. Good morning. I've been watching your channel for 7 years. Yes, I appreciate that. I couldn't sleep all night. I never liked this 24-25 group. They are clumsy. They constantly play from behind. Last time this happened was Riley's last season. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I don't like this group, but I do agree with your points. But I also think, how can I say this? Talent wise, the talent coming together, I think, is definitely much better. Not the same team as the team that played game 82. But in terms of consistency, I still don't think they're there yet. And I think in terms of consistency, Indiana is there. In terms of this is what we do, and we just do it, and we just do it, and we just do it, and there's no lapses in what we do. Now we may miss shots. We don't win every game, but in terms of what we do it. You know, for most of the game. That's just not the Knicks right now. And they're gonna have to, if they want to win this series, they're gonna have to be that. They're gonna have to grow up in terms of consistency right here, right now, if they want to win the championship. But definitely appreciate um, that comment. I think I want to talk about what stood out, and there's some things that stood out statistically for me. Um, Fast break points 13-5. Like you just can't give out. I think the first play of the game or the second play of the game was a transition basket, right? So there was some leak outs. I think they were in fast break points plus 8. The Knicks turned the ball over 15 times for 27 Indiana points. They had 27 points off turnovers. And again, like I said, Jeff, had we won the game, there were some things we still needed to clean up, and that was one of them. Points in the paint, the Knicks were plus 12. Second chance points, Indiana was plus 2 in second chance points. And you could say, well, that's not that bad. The Knicks had 21, they had 23. That's super close. What's the big deal? But the big deal is coming into this game, they were last in the regular season, last in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, in second chance points. That's just not their thing. But yet they're up 2 on the Knicks in second chance points. And the missing free throws. The Knicks missed 12 free throws. They went to the line 40 times and they made 28 of them, and they missed 2 critical ones in the fourth quarter in crunch time. OG misses one, Towns misses one. That gives us I'm not sure about OG, but I know Towns would have gave us an opportunity to go up 4.
OG's was at the end there. That was if he makes that one, Halliburton's was a 2. If he makes that one, the game's over.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go. So there you go. So, the free throw shooting, the turnovers, again, had we got out of this game, we would have kind of stole one. And when statistically speaking, we have to be better. I believe we will be better, but that's what stood out for me. Just statistically, we did well in the rebounding battle, plus 7. Team rebounds +9, offensive rebounds +2. I think I thought our advantage would be more than that, than +2. I think we did a better job, or at least it seemed that way in the first half of getting second chance opportunities. Though to be honest, yeah, we had 6 offensive rebounds in the first half. They had 3, but in the second half they were +2 in offensive rebounds again, which is not their thing. Offensive rebounding is not their thing. Second chance points is not their thing. And last night it was their thing. So that's what stood out for me statistically. Anything about that?
Well, the one great summary statistically at a lot of the points that I was thinking about too, but the number that I saw on Twitter last night, I think it was from Chris Persianen from KFS. The starters for the Knicks defensive rating was 167 points per 100 possessions.
Mm.
That is like
insane.
That is insanely terrible. Like the Pacers made their first 9 shots of the game, and then they went on a similar run in the last minute and a half of the game. And it was our starters who couldn't close the deal. When Robinson and Deuce were on the floor, they had a stretch where they couldn't buy a basket. And then it was like the starters came back in and, they just fell apart. They're too easy to attack with that group. I mean, and even in the I think it was in the overtime, Josh Hart gets caught ball watching and gets beat on a backdoor cut that takes us from up 1 to down 1, right? Just stuff like brain dead rotations and just bizarre play. But we've got to do something about this starting group. It's unsustainable defensively. Like they were, or at least they were in game 1. That's not to say they can't get better.
Right,
it's hard to imagine them being worse, but at the same time, it's staggering, really.
Yeah. Deuce had that nice block on Pascal Siakam. His second just great individual defensive play. But in crunch time, a lot of times when they scored, Jeff, Mitchell Robinson was in the game. I'm not saying it's his fault, but he was on the floor as well. But yeah, I agree that starting unit defensively was just not good. The other thing that's anything else about statistically?
No, I think that's it for right now. Go ahead and make your next point.
I think when we were up 14-17, and even when we were up 4 in overtime, now listen, you're not going to nurse a 4-point lead against this team. But I just felt we were playing like we were down, particularly when we had the 17 or the 14-point lead. They would score, we rushing down and scoring. We're going frantic. We're scoring, though. We are scoring. But I'm like, what's the rush? We're up 14. Now, you don't want to come out of your style and play like a prevent defense, right? Where you just passing the ball around, down to the 5 seconds, because sometimes that takes you out of your rhythm as well. But you don't have to come down and shoot with like 17 seconds, 15 seconds left on the clock. Like
Towns had that 3 from way above the break that was particularly damning and is your point exactly, in my opinion.
What was the rush? And I know you're going to talk about this in terms of process for Brunson, but as a team, why are you rushing with a 14-point lead? The same shots you're getting, you could get those shots with 7 seconds on the clock, 8 seconds on the clock, 5 seconds on the clock. Now, I think 1 or 2 of them were layups. If you get a layup, you take a layup. But if it's not a layup, run your offense. The Knicks, I felt, and I was saying that, I'm like, why are we speeding up, rushing when we have the lead? We don't have to get back into the game. And what that does is that gives them extra possessions. Because you're not milking the clock. And the same thing in overtime. Again, that was just a 4-point lead, but the opportunity to come up to go up 6, and I forget the exact play, but like, why did we rush that shot early in the shot
That
clock
was
when
the
we're
play that was could have been a goaltend. It was the Brunson drove to the lane on the play you're talking about.
okay,
Drove the
okay.
lane, he blocked it off the glass, came back the other way. They came down and hit a 3, and that was a 5-point swing. Instead of being up 6, it was a 1-point game.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna kill him on that because I do believe, take layups, unless it's like seconds, under a minute or whatever. But you can't really argue with someone going and taking a layup. But just to my point, that's what stood out to me, just how fast the Knicks were playing with the lead. And this happened twice in the Detroit series, where I was like, why are we playing so fast when we have the lead? Anyway, that's what stood out for me. Anything on that, or do you want to get to your next point?
Yeah, I think that I guess we could just move on to the next point. I was real, and let's talk about Brunson because that seems to be where this conversation's natural segue. 43 points on 25 shots is incredible, but I thought it was actually one of his worst games of the season. And that may be hater, I don't know, but 7 turnovers. Trey was a
Two in
prophet,
overtime.
right? We saw when Trey was on the show on Monday, he said turnovers are going to be the key. Well, half of those came from our best player, and it's not like he only had 5 assists, so it's not like he was sharing the ball. And it's like I said on that show, it was almost like he said, well, I'm going to go 1-on-5 and just, and it's going to be the Brunson show instead of it, getting others involved. And down the stretch, it just seemed like, Indiana's fantastic at putting on ball pressure the entire game. And I don't know if it was fatigue or what, because he didn't play that many minutes because he was in foul trouble. So it
Right.
shouldn't have been that, but he was really loose with his handle.
Yes, he was.
Even on plays that he didn't turn it over, we had a bunch of like 3 or 4 like near miss turnovers is what I would call them, on bad passes, like the one to Josh Hart where he barely stayed in bounds and then he kicked it back to this middle. But that was almost a disaster. And the play that really strikes me, we're up 5, like 22 seconds left. And again, it goes to your point. He makes that pass to Anunoby. We don't need another bucket there. Time is the biggest factor and asset. You're the floor general. You have open space. Dribble to the corner. Make them foul you.
Right.
And then because we trust Brunson down the stretch. Yeah, make them foul you because it's going to take more time off the clock. You get your 2 free throws. If he splits them and everything else went the same way, we win the game. So it's just being in the moment, being, that court sense, that cognizance that you need to have was just not there from him last night. And I think we've seen that quite a bit this season and in this playoffs in particular. You mentioned those 2 games in the Detroit series, but I think we saw a little bit of that in the Boston series as well.
Yeah, definitely agree. You could look at the points and there was some really good shot making for Brunson. And that's what makes it difficult because when those shots are going, a lot of times we don't complain. Then when, like when I shouldn't say when the shots are falling, when there are periods in the game in which he's taking over and the shots are falling, um, we tend to be okay with it. But then when they don't fall, he's a ball hog. And I'm not saying this to you, um, um, for you, Jeff. So I say that to say sometimes it's really hard when he takes over a game to be like, was that necessary? Was that the time where we needed that? Or did we need something else? And to your point, I felt like we needed something else, right? There are distinct times where it's clear we need the burner. We need the burner right here. And there are other times when we don't. And there were 2 periods in the game where I felt like we didn't need um the shot making. Like we needed to run the offense. And one of those times Thibodeau called the timeout, and then and I think it was when he came back, because obviously the game is going to flow better when you have a ball dominant guard who's out the game, right? Same thing in game 5 when they played without Tatum, right? So the ball is going to move more. That's just natural. But when he came back, I felt like we still could have continued that some. And when he came back, and I'm not saying his fault, it's his fault, but we went from being up 17 to at some point being down 14. And I'm not putting it on him specifically, but I do believe that had we continued to mix it up, maybe it would have been maybe it would have been a different story. So Brunson should have tossed and turned all last night, even though that might mess with his recovery. But knowing the type of guy that, at least I, not knowing him, but the type of player I think he is, he will be better in game 2, and he needs to be better in game 2. And this is the part of the process from Jalen Brunson that he's going to have to get better at if you're going to be the point guard and a scoring point guard. Which is a tricky thing on a championship contending team. When do you score? When do you get others involved? What do we need right now? We talked about this basically throughout the season. On this particular possession, what do we need? And who's the best person to do it, or the best player to do it? It doesn't always have to be Brunson, right? So he showed up, offensively. I thought that foul, his 5th foul, was just a dumb foul. And I get it. He was in position. I love the way he battles. He moves his feet. He was in position. There was no need to swipe at the ball. You did your job. You were in position. Put your hands up. Let him shoot over the top. That was a dumb foul. And it, I mean, he had the potential to hurt us. But when he went to the bench, the Knicks responded. Yeah. Let me read these super chats. Jersey Rick, I appreciate the super chat. Appreciate you joining us this morning. Good morning. I'm so disappointed about this loss, and I came here for therapy. I'm a regular listener to all MBK shows. Go Knicks, and we appreciate that. Listen, I said in the intro, it was a bad loss for the Knicks. They let one get away, but I fully expect the Knicks to respond. And I think this was the experience of, one thing to say, we got to play 48 minutes. It's another thing to experience a loss from not playing 48 minutes. And I think this cut them to the quick, so to speak. And I truly believe they needed this and that they will respond. I think the Knicks get the next 2, if not the next 3. This have to have been a soul crusher for them. And they will respond. The flip side of it, though, is Indiana is very confident now. I mean, they're confident no matter what. Even had we eked out a win, and I had this in my notes when I said, if we eke this win out, they're going to be confident that they let it get away, that they were able to get back into this game and not close it. But then to actually send it to overtime to win, whatever confidence they had is going to be super high. Indiana is not going to let the Knicks win this series. The Knicks are going to have to take it. All right. Shout out to AP for the super chat for the second one. We appreciate you. When is it a Tom Thibodeau problem? This is the 4th time he's lost home court to the lowest seed, Atlanta, Miami, Indiana, 2 times common denominator. Yeah, I hear you, but I don't think you could put this on Tom Thibodeau. The Knicks were up 14 points with 2.5 minutes left in the game. Had we won that game, would Tom Thibodeau have gotten the credit? Probably not. You missed 14 free throws. You missed 12 free throws. You turn the ball over 15 times. You give up 2 dunks to Obi Toppin in overtime. That's not a Tom Thibodeau thing. That's the players letting go of the rope, not playing 48 minutes, not staying engaged, maybe thinking the game had been won. some low IQ basketball, just in terms of what do we need? What do we need right now? And what we need right now is to slow it down, get good shots, and make sure we not miss rotations on the defensive end. So I do hear you, but I'm not buying into that narrative in this particular game. This one is on the players, in my opinion. Jeff, any
You know, it's funny because if you asked me about, you know, the series, that Neesmith and Halliburton would outplay Brunson and Cat down the stretch,
correct?
the last 6 minutes was not something that ever would have entered my mind. And it's crazy because the two of them combined for almost 80 points. Like, they were, for the most part, really good. But when it mattered the most, Towns missed a free throw. When it mattered, and they both had a chance to tie the game in the last seconds of overtime. Brunson completely airballed it, and
Right.
Cat barely hit front iron. So two really good looks, whereas Halliburton, you know, made the lucky shot at the end. You can say what you want. Look, anytime you bounce the ball up that high off the rim and it goes in, fortune is smiling on you a little bit. Not to discredit him. He had a great game, 31 points, 11 assists. He was a nightmare for us all night, and then Neesmith, 8 out of 9, 5 in a row down the stretch. And not all of those were wide open, easy shot. Like, one of them was a logo 3. I'm like, yeah, you want to cover him, but I mean, if he's going to come up from that point and make it, you just have to tip your cap. And that's all. Let's face it, that's a once in a lifetime performance. And they needed a once in a lifetime performance from Neesmith, a miracle shot from Halliburton, and a lot of missed free throws to win. So Rudy the Boxer says that the Pacers have only played their C-plus game. I think you can make the argument that the Knicks haven't even played that well. So, you can write us off if you want to and say the brooms are out. But, if the Boston series taught us anything, it's that just because one game is a disaster doesn't mean the next game is going to be one as well. So, and this Knicks team tends to circle the wagons pretty well. They, after a loss, they usually play better. And there's a lot that the Knicks did well in this game, but they didn't shoot the ball particularly well, especially from 3-point territory. So, they weren't awful, but, and they didn't get a good game from Bridges, really. His mid-range was off, which was surprising to me. I saw him take like 3 or 4. I was like, oh, that's in. And none of those shots seemed to go in. So we definitely need more from McConnell. And, and there are things that we need to do better. And personally, I think that we've got to have, I don't think it's going to happen, but I think changing the starting lineup with either Deuce or Mitchell Robinson for Josh Hart, I think would pay massive dividends for this team. I don't know if we're at that point yet. I think we would have to be down 0-2, maybe even 0-3 for him to do something that drastic. But I also think that, look, that second unit it played well for us, so that's not something we've seen. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will definitely see. Shout out to the art man formerly known as Steve. Morning, y'all. Terrible. And I had to be at work at midnight. I know you dragged your ass in here last night after that performance. 17-6 is the run we went on when Brunson went out, and I think they went on a 20-6 run at some point. How do you lose that lead? Brunson is our best player, but his inability to defend helped Neesmith get open. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if he was on Neesmith for every one of those shots, but he's definitely not our best defender, even, but I don't think he's like terrible. I think he definitely does try. I think Josh Hart, was on him, at one time. And that last three, it was like he was in the air and his feet was like just kind of like dangling, and I said, okay. Okay. This is what happens when the team gets momentum. Once they get momentum, it's not much, um, you can do. Um, all right. Any anything else that stood out? I do want to talk about Towns. I thought he, 35 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, took 8 3-pointers. I know Ajay is smiling. Hit 4 of them, so he was, 50%. He was the only starter that had a positive plus minus last night. He was +9, I believe. He got 17 shots. So I thought the Knicks, that was one of the keys to the game, just getting Karl Anthony Towns involved. And the Knicks did that last night. And, although he missed that that last 3-pointer and missed the free throw, overall, I thought his game was good. But to your point, Jeff, we weren't the better team in crunch time. And that's usually us. That's usually us. And, the missed three by Towns, the missed free throw, Brunson with almost an air ball. It nicked the rim. Um, just wasn't out, and almost turned the ball over when he was double teamed on the sidelines trying to get it off of one of the Indiana players. And thank goodness Hart got to the ball. And Hart slipped on one critical play too. And the balance, that he was able to recover and get the ball. So, overall, I thought Towns' performance was good, but in crunch time, him and JB didn't come through for us. Remember that Detroit game where both of them hit incredible shots to help us win a game? That wasn't the case last night. And just a little shout out to Payne, in his 10 minutes, 6 points, 1 rebound, plus 5. Um, yeah, I just need. I don't think the shots came early in the clock this time, but he's always itching to put it up. He's always itching to put it up. But yeah, shout
I
out to
think the
him.
Knicks need that sometimes, though, especially with some of our guys. Like, there are sequences, and there were last night, where we had 3 or 4 open shots, like good looks that we turned down, and then we ended up either in a shot clock violation or like hoisting some miracle prayer that wasn't even close to as good as the shots that we passed up. So yeah, I understand campaign can be frustrating, but he and Deuce, part of their part of what makes them good for us is that they're not afraid to shoot, that they are willing to take big shots in those tough situations, because especially when Brunson's not on the floor, you need that. And especially in a series like this where offensive rebounding should be an advantage for us, get those shots up, man. I don't.
I don't that I agree with that, but not at the beginning of the shot clock. Like, just with this Indiana team, I'm just not
Okay,
a fan of just coming down and just jacking up a three
right.
as soon as we get over half court. But yeah, I agree with you in terms of his aggressiveness in the half court offense, taking it within the flow of the offense. I'm all for it. But just the pull up threes, mm. And I don't think that was him last night, though. I don't think we, we got that. I think they might have talked to him. They might have talked to him
I think we
about
need some minutes from him. I honestly do. I think that he's if the Knicks are going to win, I think we've got to have performances like that from him. If we can just get 10 minutes from him a night, it'll help us out, because
yeah.
Brunson's having to work so hard with beating those traps and everything that it helps to have that extra ball handler out there. And to me, I like the Deuce Brunson pairing also. I think they're very effective together. And I like that you can have either one bring up the ball and those sorts of things. Josh Hart does that too some, but and he did a decent job of it last night for the most part. But I think we've got to give Brunson a little bit of a rest on that. We can't just let him like have to battle through that pressure for however many minutes he was on the floor. Like it's exhausting. It really is, especially when they have a they throw 4 different guys on him, at any one point in time, it's going to be somebody different. So, and nobody on that team could really guard him. I mean, without fouling him, he cooked them all night. He just, he made some bad mental decisions. He had 7 turnovers. That's so unlike him. And I think he'll clean that, at least that part of it up. I don't know if he'll continue to shoot the way that he has, but the Pacers didn't play very good defense either. Like the Knicks defense was atrocious, but it's not like Indiana was just stopping people and went through these great defensive runs there. The Knicks, shot over 50% from the field and they got to the line. And so, but just it's tough. It's disappointing.
Yeah. Two points to piggyback off of what you said. Part of the energy Brunson is using is not using his teammates. Like all of him being worn down is not him bringing the ball up the court. Some of it is him going, 1-on-5 unnecessarily. And again, I do think it's a tricky situation because we do need his scoring. But there are times when he can play off the ball. There are times when they could play through Towns. There are things that they can do within the offense where Brunson, I'm not going to say can rest, but he can play off ball. Like there were times when we would go to Julius and now Brunson is just spotting up to see if the ball comes, back to him off of a double team. So, there are things he can do in terms of how he runs the offense that can help get some of the pressure off of him. Like this is not last year's team, where, it was him or bust. You know what I mean? Like there are other plays. Now, a lot of them OG plays off of him, right? Even though he had that step back 3, for the most part, he's going to get his points off of others, but you can play off of Bridges a little bit. You can definitely play off of Town. So I do think there are things that where it doesn't have to be him against the world on every single possession. Number one. The second thing I want to mention is that Deuce McBride handle is so much better. Like his ability now to bring the ball up against pressure and initiate the offense is just head and tails over what it was last season. I feel comfortable when he has the ball and he has to bring it up against pressure. And that wasn't something that I was always comfortable with. I still get a little nervous when he starts dancing around trying to create his own shot, but that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen often. So kudos to him for that. I didn't, from the eye tests, I don't have statistically, it doesn't seem like the Knicks was just turning the ball over when Jalen Brunson went out, and Indiana
They
pressure, no
only
matter
had 8 turnovers that weren't Brunson's, so
right,
they couldn't have been like
right. So, kudos to him for, for that, aspect. And like I said, the block on Siakam, his shot. He didn't shoot well from the field. I was surprised. He had 9 points. He only shot 28.6% from the field. I thought I guess because of the when he made the shots, it was it seemed like he shot much better than that. But he plus 12. He had the highest plus minus on the team, followed by Cat and then Campaign.
because he's our best point of attack defender, right? That's why that works so well. And against Indiana, you need to have a really good point of attack defender, and McConnell always kills us, but I thought he was muted compared to what he usually does against us. I mean, Neesmith took his spot, but McConnell didn't kill us last night, I didn't think. And so, I just think his point of attack defense is critical. And it's, sometimes there are matchups where McCall's point of attack defense on these smaller guards is just not there. I feel
Who's
like
the
he's
smaller guard though? Halliburton is 6'5".
well, okay, quicker guard then. Whatever the case may be.
He
Sometimes
just wasn't good because Halliburton is not quicker either. He just wasn't good. Bridges
okay,
point of attack defense.
fair, but
It wasn't good last night.
I just, sometimes it's like that with him though, and then other times he fights through the screen and he's everywhere and does, I mean, and I know he played like 46 minutes last night, so it's not like but again, I think both Brunson and Bridges were on the bench when we made that run.
Yes,
I
they
think
were.
it was the two big lineup with Hart, OG, and Deuce was the lineup that paid the most dividends. That was probably our best unit that we had the entire night, oddly enough.
Yeah. Like I said, had we won that game, there was still a lot of things we needed to clean up schematically, rotation wise, free throws, turnovers. There was still some things we would have needed to um clean up. Anything else? I'm just quickly going through my notes before we get out of here.
Must win tomorrow. Must win. Your season's on the line tomorrow. You lose that game, you're not going to win 4 out of 5. You got to get back and win the game. And if you don't, then vacation's coming soon. But we'll see how it goes. And what
We
else
win.
is there?
Jeff. What did Ajay said when we were nervous about game 6? It's a formality, is what he said. He said it's the formality. The Knicks are winning game 2. The Knicks are winning game 2. And if they don't, then you deserve to lose this series. You lose 2 games at home, you deserve to lose this series. And that's just point blank.
Facts.
Yeah. Shout out to the chat, Cody, Jarrell, Lloyd's brother, Anna Grill, East Blue Drew. Appreciate you. Double D, Cody, Wiz. I had a nightmare last night. Did we really lose a game with a 14-point lead and 2:50 left because we missed several 3-point shots? And a few other reasons to add to that too, Wiz. I wish we had a recent example or 2 or 3 of a team that did that.
Never happened before.
Yeah.
Biggest choke job in the history of the NBA as far as the playoffs, Eastern Conference Finals, and being up that much. It's never happened before.
Is that a fact? It's never
That's
happened
a fact.
before? Yeah.
That's a fact.
Wow. Wonder Woman, appreciate you. HRM, we have another super chat by Jason Benjamin. Appreciate you rocking with us. Oh, I think it's a 2-parter. Josh is such an overrated defender. I don't see it. I mean, I think we know that he's not a great defender. I think he was better in the Boston series. Last night, there was some regression, for sure. And where were those precious minutes for defense? I mean, maybe. Jarrell, appreciate you. HRM, who said, we handled them for 46 minutes. We'll be fine. Okay. Tibbs will leave Deuce in next time down the stretch. Okay. Keith Turner in the house. What's good? I'm confident, Keith. I'm still confident. Nostalgic Nick, JB has to look himself in the mirror. He a lot about himself. Okay. East Blue Drew, I'm so mad. Like Brunson got so sloppy. Yeah. Jeff pointed that out. Nostalgic Nick, Tibbs lost his job last night. Complete meltdown of the century. Listen, family, we can't. I know when the Knicks win, we naming streets after them. We everybody is on top of the world. Then when we lose, Thibodeau is not going to even make it to the next game, and this is the ups and downs of of a series. Heartbreaking loss. Don't get me wrong. Historic meltdown, for sure. I think we'll be. I'm just thinking. I think we're going to be fine. That's just me. Mets Knicks fan, let's go. Appreciate you joining us as well. Snipes Entertainment in the house. Dritmore in the house. Keyshawn in the house. Shot Powers in the house. Appreciate that. G-Man 78. I appreciate that. The Art Man, formerly known as Steve, AP. Jason Benjamin. Definitely appreciate you all for the super chat. Wonder Woman, as I said. Jeff, any last words?
Well, first of all, we've got another show tonight, so
we have another. Yes, we did.
We're not done with this discussion, so please join us for that. Queen is a therapist by trade, and she's my Nick therapist sometimes too. I love your energy. I love the enthusiasm. Let's not give up on this team. They haven't given us any reason to all season long. And every time they're frustrating, they do stuff that makes you want to pull your hair out if you have any left. And there's not much, as you can tell. But don't give up on this team. Don't give up on Jalen Brunson. He's really good. And we move on. Like you can't take it back, and we'll see what happens in game 2. We lose that one, we're in trouble. We win. I'm pretty confident we can win at least one game in Indiana. We've been one of the best road teams in the playoffs. We're better on the road than we are at home this postseason. So I'm confident in that if we can get game 2, and that's no guarantee. Look, this Indiana team is one of the best scoring teams I've ever seen. Like, full stop.
Yeah. My last words is kind of what I started with. The Knicks are this is either going to be a backbreaker for this series or a springboard. And I think it's going to be a springboard. They talk a lot about, 48 minutes. We got to play 48 minutes. We know we've been winning without it, but it's going to catch up with us. And it did. And it's one thing to talk about it and know it intellectually. It's another thing to feel it. And I think they feel it now that you have to play 48 minutes, particularly in the playoffs where every game could turn a series. So I just believe that this team will respond. I think it cut them to the soul that I really think they're going to win the next 2, if not 3 games. I just believe that. But we shall see. I agree with you. I
don't believe that. So I'm happy that one of us does.
But I agree with you that Friday's game, tomorrow's game is a must win, and the Knicks will win it. Yep. Until next time, family.
Sister, you're one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Dope Soul.
Where you at?
Dope Soul.